Ich habe meinen Gast direkt mitgebracht, weil er ja gerade schon hier auf der Bühne war. Michael Hein, schön, dass du da bist, Michael.
Dear guest, here is Michael Hein. You are from ehorses. You're bringing some tips from Praxis. Not that we all understand Google Analytics. So we're going to talk about how you can really use Google Analytics and get a higher data quality. I'm a trainee by ehorses. I've been there working 2 years on data, and it's my daily work.
Die sich damit noch gar nicht beschäftigt haben.
If some of the people here in our audience have never worked with this, will they get something out of it? Oh, yes, of course. Thank you.
Genau, vielen Dank.
Hello, thank you for everyone who's come to my presentation. My talk is called 15 Google Analytics Tips from Praxis.
Also ich starte.
Here's how I've structured my talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, then we'll talk about the 15 tips. Then we're going to talk a little bit about Google Analytics 4, that's the new version. And then I'll take some questions from the audience. So, a little bit about myself. I'm Michael Hein. Since November of 2020, I've been a trainee in digital marketing by ehorses. This is an equestrian market. I work on search engine optimization and conversion rate optimizations. Before that, I was a freelancer.
Was ist eigentlich Google
So,
Analytics?
what is Google Analytics and what are the advantages of using it? Google Analytics is a free tracking tool with which one can measure the performance of a website, the measurements of user behavior, offer a base that can optimize important company key performance indicators. The advantages are that it tracks important user data like traffic per acquisitions channel or session duration. It measures micro destinations and macro destinations, for example, product sales.
Das ist zum Beispiel auch mittracken, wie viele Produktverkäufe generieren wir eigentlich. Genau. Google Analytics ist vergleichsweise.
Google Analytics is easy to use. It's also easy to install. And another big advantage is that it measures marketing campaigns, for example, over Google Ads.
Ich schon mal mit meinen 15 Tipps.
So let's start with my 15 tips. This is number 1. To convert to Google Analytics 4. We'll look at that in the next sheet. Here, step number 1 is to enter Google Analytics before July 1st, 2022. To compare the GA4 property with data from the UA property. The current version is going to be the one most used. That's UA, Universal Analytics. Step 3, by the beginning of 2023, to use the GA4 property for reports. And the fourth step would be that by July 2023, to have all data exported out of UA. So who uses Google Analytics in their daily work? At least once a week? Okay.
Oben rechts seht ihr auf den.
So at the top right, you'll see
GA4 und
Abbreviations, these are GA4. GA4 represents the future version of Google Analytics, and UA is the current one. And that will say for which version of analytics this tip is suitable. So before the 1st of July, which is in the past now, you should create a Google Analytics 4 property, or should have created one. Then you adjust the content management to it.
Deswegen so wichtig,
This is important because you need to have historical comparative data in GA4.
genau, Schritt Nummer 2,
Step 2,
abgleicht, um halt zu schauen,
data must be compared in GA4 with the data from UA.
und was auch sehr, sehr wichtig ist, dass man sich in
And then
dem
you should familiarize yourself with the reports and the new user interface.
arbeiten werdet ihr feststellen,
When you
dass
work with GA4, when you're working with that, you'll see that there are differences. It took me personally some time. Just have to look around a little bit and then it will be easier. Step 3 is that after 2023, to integrate GA4 into workflows and use it as a basis for reportings.
welche ja wirklich komplett neu sein wird, ist, dass man auch alle Stakeholder im Unternehmen
And then all stakeholders need to be trained in how to work with GA4. Step 4 is to export the data out of Universal Analytics until the 1st of July 2023.
damit wir
This data must then be prepared so that it can be readable in the historical data. So tip number 2, Google Tag Manager, to be using Google Tag Manager. What is Google Tag Manager used for?
genau der große Vorteil dabei ist, dass man
The,
das heißt, wir können Tracking
the
Master
advantage is that you don't have to go into the source codes. You don't need IT resources to work with Google Tag Manager. We can make changes to the tracking without knowing programming skills.
Tipp Nummer 3,
Tip number 3.
eine sinnvolle Kontostruktur aufbaut.
So you have to develop a logical account structure.
Da
This
ist
is for UA.
das Konto auf oberster Ebene haben.
So the account is at the top level. At the second level, we have the properties. A property would be, for example, a website. Could also be an online shop.
Was dann wichtig ist, dass wir in der dritten
So what's important is that in the third level, under the property level, so you have 3 data groups: master data, test data, and raw data.
die wir irgendwie nur haben, dort
This is all the data that we have.
geht es darum, dass wir, wenn
By
wir
test data
fügen, um die Daten
is
auszufüllen,
maybe adding a filter.
Ansicht,
That can be done in the test data. You can test that.
die, ja, das ist sozusagen der einzige Ort der Wahrheit, also wo die validen Daten
The
einlaufen.
master data is the only place where the data will then remain, and that from that we will then create the reportings.
Bei GA4 sieht das ein Stück weit anders aus. Bei
With GA4, it looks a little bit different. There is no third level.
bis zu 100 Properties hinzufügen können. Das heißt,
So
ich
you,
persönlich
but
würde das so lösen, dass man
you can add up to 100 properties.
Hebt auf die zweite Ebene.
So that the data that would formally be in the third level would then be part of the properties.
Eben vergessen habe zu erwähnen,
Something I forgot is that you see down at the bottom right, Marketplace and Magazine.
für den Marktplatz eine Datenansicht angelegt haben, beziehungsweise eine Property.
We have created that specifically for ehorses so that we can evaluate the magazine traffic and the marketplace traffic separately. Tip number 4,
Ausschließt.
that internal traffic is filtered out. Internal traffic is when your employees are working and looking at your website,
Weit verfälscht werden, weil
and then
sich jetzt nicht
there will be false data because your employees are not behaving like typical web users. So metrics like user or duration, you'll get the wrong data.
dass Metriken wie Conversion Rate oder dass
So-
die Attributionsberichte
Data like conversion rates will not be reflecting reality.
valide Daten haben,
We'd like to have really valid data.
falsche Daten haben.
If you have false data, that's not going to be doing the work that you need from analytics. Here is how we show how you eliminate internal traffic being recorded.
bei Google Analytics im Konto relativ schnell findet. Also im Prinzip ist das wirklich sehr, sehr simpel. Es geht
It's
einfach nur darum, dass wir
principally very simple. You create a filter
über IP-Adressen rausfiltern.
so that you can you can filter out visits by IP address.
Der gesamte Traffic der Mitarbeiter auch wirklich ausgeschlossen wird. Tipp Nummer 5. Bei Tipp Nummer 5 geht es darum, dass wir
Tip number 5 is that we make a reference list. It sounds complicated, it's easy.
Verweise sind Zugriffe, die jetzt über eine
References
externe Quelle auf eure Webseite führen. Als Beispiel
come from other websites through links, for example. Maybe you have an online shop, it's linked, and if someone links, will take the traffic into your website. That would be a reference.
Referral ein.
Google.
Und
Yes, this is called a referral in German as well as in English.
wenn jetzt zum Beispiel ein
As
Nutzer
far as online shops, when a user makes a purchase, he will go onto the payment provider website, for example, PayPal, and when the payment is made,
Analytics als Verweis ein,
that is entered into Google Analytics as a referral, even though it isn't a referral because it involves a purchase. Here you can see in Google Analytics,
paypal.de ein und dann stellt jetzt sicher, dass PayPal oder alle
you can
Zahlungsdienstleister
see that PayPal or any payment providers that you use will then not be recorded in Google Analytics.
mal dazu, das ist jetzt das Beispiel für
That's the example for UA. So you go to the property level and then you'll see tracking information, then you'll see lists for data that you can eliminate. By GA4, it looks like this. If you click on this, it'll take you onto an interface where you can then eliminate these or filter out these references.
Mit Zielvorhaben können nämlich wichtige Messwerte auf einer Webseite erfasst werden. Und grundsätzlich ist es so, dass alle
So here you can integrate target projects and events.
Es geht ja nicht nur darum, dass wir jetzt Traffic auf der Seite
It's
haben, sondern
not
gewisse Conversions hinterlegen, Ziele.
so these are conversions
Und da können wir
with which we are measuring the success of our company. For example, in the number of conversions, how many concluded purchases have occurred.
also Marketingkampagnen bewerten, also wie erfolgreich war.
We can see how much success our marketing campaign has had. This is very, very important, especially for Google Ads.
Zum Beispiel wie viele Produktkäufe
For example, how many product purchases will be undertaken through Google Ads.
Verkaufstrichter nachvollziehen können. Wenn wir zum Beispiel feststellen, dass wir gehen jetzt einfach von einem Use Case aus, dass wir einen Online-Shop haben und in dem Online-Shop haben wir halt eine sehr hohe Abbruchquote im Warenkorb, dann könnte man hingehen und schauen, okay, warum ist das eigentlich so? Warum verlassen gerade so viele Nutzer den Bestellprozess?
Here you can filter down the exit pages. You can see how you can optimize this checkout process, where people are exiting your pages.
Was jetzt als Mikroziel einlaufen würde.
You can measure newsletter registrations
Interessant sein
or
kann.
when people
Und wir können zum Beispiel mitmessen, wie viele Kontaktanfragen
download PDFs.
generieren wir mit einer, ja, mit
And
der Landingpage XY.
Also see who comes on to contact pages,
Jetzt wird
whether or not they fill it out.
etwas technischer.
Here's something a little more technical.
Wie Google Analytics 4 und Universal
You've got to understand Google Analytics 4
auf jeden Fall sagen, dass
for this. In GA4,
anders mitgetrackt werden. Bei GA4 ist es so, dass
targets are made on the basis of
ein Ereignis ist zum Beispiel
events.
der Start einer Sitzung.
So this would be perhaps the start of a session or a PDF download, etc. By UA, we have the advantage that
Das heißt, wir können zum Beispiel bei Universal Analytics hinterlegen, wenn die URL danke.html erreicht wird, haben wir zum Beispiel einen Produktverkauf
by UA, these things are generated on the basis of target pages.
Bei Universal Analytics 4 können wir außerdem die Dauer
Also
als Zielvorhaben hinterlegen.
use duration as a target. For example, when a user stays longer than 5 minutes, that would be a target, an achieved target, and it would be registered in Google Analytics. What you can also measure is pages per sessions as a target.
Was in Google
If
Analytics
someone, for example, looks at 3 pages, that can be set as a target. And also events such as newsletter registration can also be entered as a target.
Tipp Nummer 7
Tip number 7,
ist das Thema sauberes Kampagnentracking.
clean campaign tracking.
Genau, hier ist es wichtig, dass
Here,
also hier geht es halt darum, dass wir diverse Marketingaktionen, die wir
this,
planen, dass wir die auch wirklich mittracken können und auch auswerten können.
here it's important that we can track our different campaigns. We use UTM parameters. It sounds complicated. It's easier than it sounds.
Das sind Variablen, die einer URL angehängt und
UTMs are variables that are on URLs. When you click on a UTM, you are automatically sent to Google Analytics. Here you can see how a UTM link is built. For example, a newsletter.
E-Mail und wir haben UTM-Campaign, wo wir halt der Kampagne
UTM BDM is the and then email and then campaign letter. If we make a link like this, and the user clicks on this, it goes directly to Google Analytics. This information is sent to Google Analytics. There's also a parameter generator, so that you enter anything that you want, the source, the media, the campaign name,
diese Daten dann bei euch in Google
so that this information flows into Google Analytics.
umgesetzt haben. Und zwar haben wir eine Guideline aufgesetzt, wie Stakeholder diesen...
So we've created a guideline on how to use these UTM parameters. We've had experience that stakeholders have put in different information, and then we were not able to compare the data. So we had to create some standards so that everyone can orientate themselves on the specific data, so that it can be compared optimally. Tip number 8 is to differentiate between organic social and paid social. You might know you have this. The default is channel grouping. So organic social is traffic that is organically created over social media. We might have a problem that if we use social ads,
rot markiert ist.
It might come in under other. Then we can't really see where come these 488 users. Did they come from social or otherwise? So to differentiate, to make this differentiation, you can see who came through paid social and who came through organic social. So if you see to the right,
und unten seht ihr,
below, you'll see that, at the bottom in the center, you can see the differences in the numbers between paid social and organic social. And then you can see from where people are really coming to our site.
sonstige einlaufen.
By our standard channel grouping, it's like a black box. We can't really track where our users are coming from. It's our goal that we can, it's really transparent that we can track where our customers are.
Genau, hier habe ich einmal aufgelistet, wie man das Ganze bei...
Here I've listed...
Also wie gesagt, ihr habt diese Standard-Channel-Gruppierung und diese Standard-Channel-Gruppierung...
These channel groups can be expanded.
Ich bin auf diese Standard-Channel-Gruppierung...
I can go to this standard grouping. What I've done here is that I've
Social hinzugefügt.
Okay, I've added to the channel paid social, and then I defined 4 rules.
Zum Beispiel Facebook, CPC.
These would be Facebook, CPC, Instagram, CPC,
Also wenn wir jetzt auf diesen 4 Kanälen Social Ads schalten,
etc. When one sees these and how these platforms generate the traffic, this traffic,
Berichte mit ein.
it then comes in as paid social.
Aber an der
I don't want to make this too complicated, but when we enter these sources, we have to make sure that
übertragen.
that these are transmitted to the parameters
Paid Social auf unsere Seite kommen.
so that we can see that the users came to our website over paid social. Here's tip number 9 is to create comments.
Das ist jetzt wieder auf Universal Analytics bezogen.
So you see this refers to the UA version.
Kommentaren verfassen kann. Beispielsweise haben wir
So we've marked special events with comments.
das könnte man dann dort eintragen, damit man halt nachvollziehen
The
kann.
advantages are that you can track why do we have an uplift or a downlift in our traffic.
Dass wir
This gives an advantages in that
Wichtig ist, wenn wir jetzt verschiedene
you can see through different, if you have different marketing teams that have different marketing campaigns, then you can keep them up to date.
im Bereich SEO
For example, if we have an SEO campaign, we can enter this so that the other people on the team can see, well, this happened on this day, and on this day is when the traffic rose. Another big advantage is that we can also better track an offline marketing campaign.
10,
Tip number 10,
sogenannte benutzerdefinierte Dimensionen.
how to create user-defined dimensions for events. This pertains to GA4, so that standard events can be tracked, for example, a PDF download.
Parameter
You
hinzuzufügen.
can also add additional information to certain events.
Parameter, die können
These
wir
additional parameters can be tracked on the dashboard. I've
einen PDF-Download hinterlegt.
So I've made an example here. I put in a PDF download, a file download, and then you can see from which URL this PDF has been downloaded from,
zu finden.
and on which page is this PDF to be found.
Was ist eigentlich die Quelle? Also
So you can see what is the source, where is this action taking place from. Here is a version for GA4. I don't want to go too much into detail. This is not so hard. So here you can select the link.
Dimensionsname und Beschreibung könnt ihr nach Belieben ausfüllen.
And then you can edit the user-defined dimensions.
Und dann haben wir jetzt unten links, das ist dann im Endeffekt das
Bottom left, we have then the end result. You'll see the reports from GA4 or which link the PDF was downloaded from and where this PDF is found.
explorative
Tip number 11, create explorative data analyses.
dass
By
wir
GA4, we don't have these standard reports like in Google Analytics. This is where they differ from one another. In GA4,
die Seitenaufrufe mitgemessen und wir sehen halt auf dem ersten
we're not measuring.
welche Seiten performen bei uns eigentlich
Well,
am
what
besten.
we see is which pages are best performing.
Explorativen Datenanalyse
With explorative data analysis, which is on your dashboard, we can say which are our top pages, what are the best pages, which pages in our online shop perform the best. We can make this accessible to everyone.
Google Analytics 4 möglichst ähnlich zur aktuellen Version von Analytics zu gestalten. Hier habe ich einmal aufgelistet, wie sowas angelegt werden kann.
Here I've
Also
showed what can be entered. This would be a good thing to be photographed.
wir haben halt einmal
We have different numbers that we enter so that what you can see which URLs are called up, and then we see duration, active users, or exits. Then you can see on the right-hand side this overview where we can then see which pages are the top performers. Top number 12 is e-commerce tracking.
Und der andere große Vorteil ist, dass wir auch die
Another big advantage is that you can best track the customer journey. Here is a group thread. You can see which channels, which touch points the customer encountered before they came to a purchase. You can check how many products are we generating.
Tipp Nummer 13.
Tip number 13. First, start tracking when there is consent. The standard version of Google Analytics is not GDPR compliant. So this data collection should only be started when the user has consented to his data being collection. So when a user comes on, a YouTube video might begin. When the user has given his approval that his data can be used, then you can begin to track. And then the YouTube video can start. What's also important is that cookie guidelines must be given, which shows which user data is being collected. This shows the user, tells the user which personal data is going to be used. You also want to use IP anonymization so that Google does not store the full IP addresses. I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal information, but as a IT person, I can only recommend that you speak to a legal expert about this. Tip number 14.
Hier geht es halt darum, dass wir Daten visuell aufarbeiten.
Creating dashboards in Google Data Studio. So this is making the data for all of your accessible for all of your stakeholders. For example, this is what a Google Analytics acquisition overview in Google Data Studio looks like. This shows you how many people we are getting over Google Ads, over other Google sites. We can very easily visualize this data, and it's so once you've entered into this process, creating this dashboard, putting the information in is not hard. Tip number 15. In any case, if you are using Google Analytics as a tracking tool, then seek legal advice first.
Tracking datenschutzkonformer sein soll.
There are ways in which you can make data tracking more compliant, to conform more with legislation. There are some cases where legal experts are very critical about whether conform data tracking is compliant or not.
Genau, hier habe ich noch meinen kurzen Reminder.
And here is my brief reminder.
Also die ihr unbedingt einleiten müsst.
Start as soon as you possibly can with the
Also wichtig nochmal als Reminder.
With the transfer, with the change, the switch onto Google Analytics 4. Step 1, do this before July 1st, so as soon as you can. Step 2, compare the data in GA4 with the data from the UA property. Make sure that this is transferred properly. Trip 3, start by 2023 to use GA4 property for reports, and step 4, to get a data export from out of Universal Analytics by the 1st of July 2023.
Ja, spannend ist hier nochmal alle.
For those who are interested, here are the 15 Google Analytics tips in an overview.
Technisch rüber.
Some of them seem very technical.
Ist es doch schon
If you study this, it becomes easier to understand.
Vielen Dank für eure
Thank you.
I see you running out of reason. Don't try to blame it on the seasons. Why you wanna walk away? When we began, swear we had something that would last. Baby has the feeling